shift our focus, though, to this story. G20 Finance Track meetings take place this week in Durban. The meetings are being co-hosted by South Africa's Minister of Finance, Enoch Godongwana, and the Governor of the South African Reserve Bank, Lesetja Kganyago, together with their respective deputies. Some of the issues dealt with by this track are global economic outlook and debt sustainability for low-income countries. We're joined now by Deputy Govenor Dr. Rashad Cassim to tell us more about these meetings. Good afternoon, Doctor. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Now, the meetings come at a time when there's uncertainty in the global economy. What discussions are expected to take place in addressing some of these issues?
So, there's never a good time when you host a G20. There are always issues and that we have to deal with. But I think that the G20, as you know, represents about 85% of the world's output. And it's really a consensus-driven organization where nothing is binding, but it provides a unique forum for coordination. So not surprisingly, typically what happens at these meetings, as is happening in Zimbabwe today in the next few days, is we sit around the table and discuss the conjuncture. How is uncertainty impacting on the global growth, our global growth prospects? How is uncertainty impacting on inflation? How can we resolve uncertainty so that there's more predictability in economic policy? So obviously that will be an important discussion, but there are other ongoing discussions around how can we improve, as you said in your opening comments, debt distress. How can we improve cross-border payments? Many of these issues are issues that have continued from the Brazilian presidency and previously the Indian presidency.
Now, what would be your submissions around the debt? Because debt in developing countries is mounting. Many leaders have lamented this reality of a large portion of the country's GDPs being allocated to servicing external debt, which ultimately hinders development and social progress in most of these countries. So what would be South Africa's contributions to this conversation around this long-standing issue of unsustainable debt?
So the G20 is a relay process. We take over the work done by many other countries on how to improve dialogue on debt. Minister Enoch Godongwana has set up an Africa panel chaired by Minister Trevor Manuel, previously Minister of Finance Trevor Manuel. We just came out from a very interesting discussion to take a really comprehensive approach to Africa's debt problems. That is the cost of capital, the cost of raising finance, the nature of capital markets, how we can bring to the attention the impact of global regulation that may impact on the ability to raise financing. So what South Africa is doing is taking a comprehensive approach, putting it on the agenda, elevating the issues, and from here, we will see various actors coming together and resolving this issue, which will not be resolved overnight.
Now, Deputy, I want to take you back to our initial conversation, the first question around the global economic uncertainty. Many would argue that, of course, it's brought about by political developments, the decisions that many countries take, superpowers, if you will. So one assumes that the conversation will also somehow join in with political developments because they do to a certain extent, or political actors do to a certain extent, impact the economic results or economic outcomes of the globe. So to what extent will the conversations around political actors or politics dominate these discussions?
So obviously, the ministers of finance and central bank governors like to stay in their lanes. Some of the highly politicized discussions take place at the Sherpa track, and more importantly, will culminate in the Heads of State Summit. But you are right. We cannot ignore the impact of these conflicts on the economies. So our role as the finance track is to kind of say there are few conflicts, there are wars going on, there's uncertainty from tariff policies. Our role is to kind of highlight how these impact on the prospects of the global economy, and to kind of send a signal to the politicians about how this should be fixed, because the consequences of these not being ratified could be dire in a world where growth has slowed down anyway. And as you know, South Africa's growth is partly dependent on domestic factors, but also the global economic conditions.
Doctor, sounds like it's a very going to be an insightful conversation, very robust discussions there. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. That is South African Reserve Bank Deputy Governor Dr. Rashad Cassim speaking to us on the G20 Finance Track meetings that are currently taking place in Durban.